Imagine a company, once the darling of Germany's tech scene, celebrated as a pioneer in the digital payment world. A company so successful, it knocked a traditional banking giant out of the prestigious DAX 30 index. This was Wirecard, a name that promised innovation, growth, and a bright financial future. But behind the dazzling numbers and the confident smiles of its executives lay a secret. A multi-billion-dollar lie that would unravel into one of the biggest financial scandals in European history. Today, we're diving deep into the story of Wirecard, a tale of ambition, deceit, and a colossal corporate collapse. So what exactly was Wirecard supposed to be? Founded back in 1999 in a suburb of Munich, Wirecard started as a payment processor for online gambling and adult websites. It was a risky but profitable niche. The company's main job was to act as a middleman, ensuring that when you bought something online, the money moved safely from your bank to the sellers. As e-commerce exploded, so did Wirecard. By the mid-2000s, it had its own bank, Wirecard Bank, which allowed it to issue credit cards and handle money directly. This was a game changer. The company went public and started its aggressive global expansion. Its CEO, Markus Braun, an Austrian tech visionary with a signature black turtleneck, became the face of German fintech success. He painted a picture of a company at the forefront of the cashless revolution, a global player competing with the likes of PayPal and Square. Under his leadership, Wirecard's stock price soared. At its peak in 2018, the company was valued at an astonishing 24 billion euros. It seemed unstoppable. Investors, big and small, poured their money in, believing they were backing the future of finance. Wirecard was a symbol of Germany's ability to compete in the global tech race. But even as the company was celebrating its success, whispers of doubt were starting to emerge. For years, a small group of skeptical journalists and short sellers, investors who bet against a company's stock, had been raising red flags. They pointed to irregularities in Wirecard's accounting, questioning the source of its supposedly massive profits, especially from its Asian operations. The Financial Times, in particular, led a series of investigations called The House of Wirecard. Their reporter, Dan McCrum, published articles detailing whistleblower allegations of forged contracts and inflated sales figures in Wirecard's Singapore office. How did Wirecard respond? Not with transparency, but with aggression. The company flatly denied all accusations, calling them baseless attacks from malicious short sellers trying to manipulate its stock price. They even went on the offensive, hiring private investigators to spy on the journalists and short sellers. Germany's financial regulator BaFin surprisingly seemed to side with Wirecard. Instead of investigating the company, they launched an investigation into the journalists and short sellers for alleged market manipulation. For a while, it worked. The critics were silenced, and Wirecard's powerful narrative of success continued to dominate. The company's story often centered on its mysterious third-party partners, or TPAs. Wirecard claimed that in certain Asian markets where it didn't have its own licenses, it used these partners to process payments on its behalf. A huge chunk of Wirecard's reported revenue and profits supposedly came from these TPA businesses. The problem was, no one could ever really verify who these partners were, or how much business they were actually doing. It was a black box, and Wirecard insisted it was all legitimate, just complex. This explanation was enough to satisfy many, including the company's longtime auditor, Ernst & Young, or EY. For nearly a decade, EY had signed off on Wirecard's annual accounts, giving them a clean bill of health. This stamp of approval from a Big Four accounting firm gave investors immense confidence. If EY said the numbers were good, who were they to argue? This created a powerful illusion of legitimacy. Any lingering doubts were brushed aside. After all, a respected German company, part of the elite DAX index and audited by EY, couldn't possibly be engaged in fraud on such a massive scale, could it? The tipping point finally came in late 2019. Under immense pressure from investors and the persistent reporting by the Financial Times, Wirecard agreed to an independent special audit by another major firm, KPMG. The goal was to clear its name once and for all. The world waited for the results, which were delayed several times. CEO Marcus Brown assured everyone that the audit would find nothing wrong. But when the KPMG report was finally released in April 2020, it was a bombshell. KPMG stated it could not verify the existence of a huge portion of Wirecard's profits from 2016 to 2018. Crucially, they couldn't confirm the existence of 1.9 billion euros in cash that was supposed to be sitting in trust accounts in the Philippines. Suddenly, the house of cards began to wobble. The 1.9 billion euros was about a quarter of the company's entire balance sheet. Wirecard's explanation was that the money was held in trust by two banks in the Philippines. But when journalists and investigators went looking, they hit a brick wall. The Central Bank of the Philippines issued a statement. The 1.9 billion euros had never entered their country's financial system. The documents provided by Wirecard claiming the money was there were fraudulent. It was a lie. A massive, glaring 1.9 billion euro lie. The cash simply did not exist. It had never existed. The aftermath was swift and brutal. On June 18, 2020, Wirecard announced that its auditor, EY, refused to sign off on its 2019 financial statements because of the missing 1.9 billion euros. The company's stock price plummeted by over 99% in a matter of days, wiping out billions in shareholder value. CEO Marcus Brown resigned and was later arrested. The company's COO, Jan Marsalek, a shadowy figure with alleged ties to intelligence agencies, became an international fugitive and vanished without a trace. He remains one of the most wanted men in the world. Just a few days later, Wirecard filed for insolvency, admitting it was 3.5 billion euros in debt. The shining star of German tech had crashed and burned. So how did this happen? The investigation revealed a complex, decade-long fraud. It appears that Wirecard had been faking a significant portion of its sales and profits for years, particularly from its Asian TPA business. The 1.9 billion euros was the culmination of this fiction, a phantom figure invented to fool auditors and investors, and to keep the stock price climbing. The money was never real. The business it supposedly represented was a mirage. The scandal sent shockwaves through Germany's financial and political establishment. How could a fraud of this magnitude go undetected for so long? Questions were raised about the competence and independence of the financial regulator BaFin, which had protected Wirecard and targeted its critics. The role of the auditors, EY, also came under intense scrutiny. How could they have missed a multi-billion-dollar hole in the balance sheet for so many years? The Wirecard collapse was not just a corporate failure. It was a regulatory failure of epic proportions. The story of Wirecard is a stark reminder that in the world of finance, things are not always as they seem. It's a lesson about the dangers of blind faith in corporate narratives, the importance of skeptical journalism, and the critical need for robust, independent oversight. It shows how a compelling story, told by a charismatic leader, can create a powerful illusion that fools almost everyone. For the thousands of employees who lost their jobs and the countless investors who lost their life savings, the Wirecard mirage turned into a very real nightmare. The fallout from this scandal continues to this day, forcing Germany and Europe to rethink how they regulate their financial markets. It's a cautionary tale for the ages, a story of a digital dream that became a devastating deception. Thanks for watching, and if you found this story fascinating, don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives. See you next time.